There are moments in life when the air feels heavier than usual, as though the very atmosphere is whispering secrets too ancient and too vast for ordinary ears to hold. You may have felt it, that curious sensation that the world you are living in is not entirely the same one others occupy, that you are somehow watching a play unfold while also sensing the script written in invisible ink behind it. This is where the story of the chosen ones and their unique soul contracts begins. Stay with me until the end of this journey, for what you discover here may illuminate shadows you did not even know existed within your own life. And before we dive deeper, make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because these explorations are not meant to be a single spark, but an ongoing fire that continues to warm, guide, and challenge you. The idea of the chosen one has echoed through myth, scripture, and cinema alike. From prophets carrying divine messages to unlikely heroes plucked from obscurity, humanity has always recognized the archetype of individuals marked by destiny. Yet, beyond the stories we inherit, there lies a living reality, a hidden architecture within consciousness itself that suggests some souls carry contracts different from the rest. These are not the contracts of legal ink and earthly binding, but of etheric promise and cosmic agreement. To speak of them is to admit that life is not random, that our steps may be guided by forces beyond mere chance, and that certain souls are woven into existence with threads of a different texture. When we talk about soul contracts, we are referring to pre-incarnational agreements, the invisible promises that a soul makes before stepping through the veil of birth. While every human being carries one, the chosen ones bear contracts so unusual, so paradoxical, that their lives are often marked by turbulence and profound awakening. Their struggles, heartbreaks, and apparent misfortunes are not punishments but deliberate chisels, sculpting their being into vessels capable of holding extraordinary light. They live as if tethered between worlds, pulled by the weight of earthly suffering and yet compelled by the gravitational pull of divine mission. Imagine life as a vast ocean where most souls sail in gentle tides, sometimes encountering storms, but often charting familiar waters. The chosen ones, however, are those who find themselves hurled into tempests, carried toward uncharted islands, or pulled beneath by currents no one else seems to feel. To the untrained eye, their existence might look cursed or unlucky, yet within these very waves lies the crucible of transformation. For their contracts do not merely bind them to personal growth, they anchor them to collective shifts, to roles that extend beyond their own narrative and ripple outward into the consciousness of humanity itself. There is, in truth, something both haunting and luminous about such contracts. They can be likened to seeds planted in the deepest soil of suffering, waiting for the right pressure of pain and longing to split them open so that they may reach for light. Often, chosen ones are born into circumstances that make little sense, families that do not reflect their true nature, societies that misunderstand or reject them, or inner battles that seem endless. It is not unusual for them to spend years believing something is wrong with them, never realizing that their sense of alienation is not an error but a signpost of their difference. Their contracts are not about blending in, but about becoming mirrors that reflect hidden truths to a world afraid to see them. One might ask, why would any soul agree to such a path? Why would a being willingly step into a life marked by trial, isolation, or the heavy responsibility of carrying invisible burdens? The answer lies in perspective. Before incarnation, the soul does not see difficulty as we see it here on earth. It views challenge as opportunity, opposition as a sharpening stone, and suffering as a furnace that can transmute raw spirit into radiant wisdom. In this sense, the chosen ones are not punished, they are volunteers. They raise their hands in the timeless halls of eternity and declare, "Send me." It is important to pause and recognize that the term chosen does not imply superiority. These souls are not better, but they are different, woven into existence with certain resonances that align them to particular tasks. To see them as exalted would miss the point entirely, for their path is often lonelier and harsher than most could endure. The chosen one archetype is not about privilege, it is about service, sacrifice, and transformation. If anything, they bear the heaviest weights so that others might walk lighter. Their contracts are forged not in pursuit of personal glory, but in allegiance to something greater than themselves, whether they consciously realize it or not. And yet, this reality is not without beauty, for when chosen ones begin to awaken to their contracts, life shifts dramatically. The suffering that once seemed meaningless takes on new shape, like pieces of a puzzle suddenly clicking into place. Their wounds become maps, their loneliness a forge, their despair a gateway. They begin to see patterns, synchronicities, and signs woven through their path. Breadcrumbs left by the soul itself, guiding them toward remembrance. And in those moments of recognition, their lives become not merely stories of endurance, but of revelation. The introduction of this idea is not meant to glorify struggle, but to honor its hidden purpose. Too often, those walking this path feel broken or defective, comparing their jagged edges to the smoother shapes of others. But, in truth, it is those very fractures that allow the light to enter. A stained glass window is not beautiful because it is unbroken, but because its fragmented pieces are arranged into something radiant. So too are the chosen ones, fragments of pain and promise arranged by unseen hands into a mosaic of divine intention. This exploration we are about to embark on will travel through many dimensions. We will examine the essence of soul contracts, the patterns that mark chosen lives, and the deeper symbolic stories that illuminate their role in the grand design. We will also ground these reflections in practical understanding, for philosophy without application is like starlight without fire, beautiful but cold. By the end, you may find yourself reinterpreting your own life, your wounds, and perhaps even the secret agreements your soul carries. For now, consider this introduction as the opening of a hidden door. Beyond it lies a hallway lined with mirrors, each one reflecting not who you think you are, but who you truly came here to be. The chosen ones are not mythical characters locked in legend, they walk among us, and perhaps you have felt the whisper that you are one of them. There are certain chords that sound the same in every life that carries the mark of a pre-birth agreement. An anxious longing that the world will rearrange itself into sense. A stubborn refusal to accept easy answers, and an inner compass that ticks to the rhythm of something ancient and patient. When we speak of core themes for the chosen ones and their unique soul contracts, we are not building a catalog of traits so much as tracing the recurring patterns of a mythic grammar. These patterns are the grammar by which these lives write their sentences, recurring motifs that, when read together, reveal the invisible logic steering them. To read them is to begin translating the language of destiny into the vocabulary of human life. At the heart of this grammar sits the paradox of free will and destiny. Soul contracts suggest a map drawn before the first breath, yet the map is not a chain. It is a suggestion with room for improvisation. Chosen ones repeatedly meet moments that feel preordained, doors that open with uncanny timing, meetings that feel scripted, losses that seem prearranged. Yet, within these appointed moments, choice remains the sovereign currency. The contract does not remove agency, instead it frames the arena in which agency is exercised. Imagine a stage whose set is designed in advance, but whose actors improvise every line. The script provides context and pressure, but the soul's choices create meaning. This dance between pre-written architecture and improvisational freedom becomes a central teaching. Destiny may sketch the outlines, but character fills the painting with color. Another recurring pillar is initiation through rupture. Where ordinary lives may experience hardships that can be endured and moved past, chosen lives often pass through severings that uproot identity. These are not mere trials. They are fracturing events that strip away comfortable definitions. A chosen one may lose a name, a role, a relationship, or a sense of belonging, and in that loss, discover a new language for being. The rupture is ruthless because it is precise. It removes what supports only surface-level identity so that what is essential can be revealed. This is why these paths frequently appear chaotic to observers. The world seems to punish the chosen, but in reality the world is dismantling the scaffolding that kept their deeper self hidden. Closely bound to rupture is the theme of shadow integration. Chosen souls often attract mirrors in the form of others' projections and their own hidden contents. Where many seek to avoid darkness, those with particular contracts are invited to its study and alchemy. They become cartographers of the shadow, learning to negotiate its territories without succumbing. The gift here is rare. The ability to hold inner contradiction with steadiness, to recognize that the parts we fear most contain keys to compassion, creativity, and authority. The soul contract may decree that the one who can face their own abyss will one day offer light to those still afraid to look. Resonance is a quieter, subtler theme. Chosen ones frequently experience a sense of being tuned to frequencies others do not hear. They resonate with places, ideas, or people across time and culture. A song will unlock an ancestral memory. A scent will awaken a vow made in another life. A face will feel like home because the soul recognizes an old agreement. This resonance is not romantic fantasy, but a real attunement that functions as a navigational aid. It points them toward their work and away from distractions. Learning to listen to resonance, distinguishing soulful call from ego wish, becomes an essential skill, a kind of inner compass calibration. Service and burden walk hand in hand in these contracts. Unlike ordinary vocations, the service called for here is rarely simple or comfortable. It is the kind of service that asks you to stand in the fire so others can pass, to carry knowledge that is initially rejected, misunderstood, or even feared. The paradox is that the same qualities that attract persecution, radical honesty, intensity of feeling, visionary ideas, are often the very gifts the world requires. Thus, the chosen one's work frequently appears paradoxical. It is both sacrificial and liberating, both lonely and cosmically connective. The soul contract asks for contribution, not applause. Timing, too, is woven into these agreements. There is a tempo to awakening that cannot be hurried, and many chosen ones learn to be patient with their own timetable. The world's impatience can feel like a second, external contract, pressing them to perform before they are ready. The deeper contract insists on maturation. Seeds must germinate in dark soil. Light cannot rush root. Learning to accept delayed visibility or to value inner work over instant recognition becomes a discipline and a mercy. Relationship patterns recur with stubborn persistence. Chosen souls often move through lives filled with teachers who are also students, lovers who are also mirrors, communities that both cherish and reject them. These relationships are less random than they seem. They are part of a choreography meant to awaken capacity for empathy, leadership, or forgiveness. Boundaries become an art form for those on this path. They must be porous enough to receive guidance and solidarity, yet protected enough to prevent energy depletion. This balancing act between generosity and self-preservation is a practical expression of the contract's ethics. The theme of translation is subtle but vital. Chosen ones are translators between realms. Whether the realm is spiritual and material, ancient and modern, or individual and collective, these souls learn to hold two worlds without collapsing. Their language often synthesizes polarity, compassion with justice, radical honesty with tenderness. visionary foresight with grounded practicality. This translation is not merely rhetorical, it is a lived epistemology. How to turn insight into habit, revelation into routine, mystery into daily devotion. The Chosen One's task is often to make the invisible usable, to engineer a bridge where none existed. Finally, we arrive at the theme of stewardship rather than ownership. Soul contracts of this sort inculcate a sense of caretaking. Chosen ones inherit responsibilities that they do not possess in a possessive sense, but that they are asked to steward. They are temporary custodians of certain truths, teachings, or movements. Recognizing stewardship alleviates egoic entanglement. The work feels less like a personal destiny to be hoarded and more like a communal trust to be fulfilled and then released. Together, these themes form a living lattice, interlocking, sometimes contradictory, always instructive. Each thread offers not only a description but also a direction: how to interpret suffering, how to practice patience, how to align action with pre-birth intention. To walk this path is to accept a curriculum written in experience and echoing in dreams. It is to learn slowly that the soul's signature is less a badge of honor and more a responsibility to love fiercely, to refuse easy comforts, and to be brave enough to embody what the world most needs right now. To truly glimpse the essence of chosen ones and their soul contracts, we must step beyond the scaffolding of explanation and move into the language of symbols and allegory. For symbols, unlike plain words, bypass the rational defenses of the mind and lodge themselves in the heart like seeds. They bloom in their own time, sometimes years later, carrying wisdom that logic alone cannot hold. These narratives are not historical accounts but mythic reflections, mirrors that echo the secret architecture of chosen lives. Consider first the story of the lantern bearer. In a world drowned in fog, there are souls who awaken to find a small flame in their chest. They are not told why it burns there, nor how long it will last, but they feel compelled to lift it high. As they walk through the mist, others catch glimpses of the light and follow, though often they do not thank the bearer, nor even recognize them. Some resent the light because it makes the shadows too visible. And yet, the lantern bearer walks on, guided not by recognition but by an inner vow whispered before birth. I will walk until the fog breaks, even if my arms grow tired of holding the flame. This allegory speaks to the chosen soul's contract: to illuminate without guarantee of reward, to burn for others without assurance of warmth for themselves, and to trust that the flame will not consume them but guide them deeper into their mission. There is also the parable of the broken vessel. A potter once made a vessel so thin and fragile that it shattered in the firing kiln. The shards seemed useless, but the potter did not discard them. Instead, she placed them carefully into a pattern, binding the cracks with molten gold until the broken vessel became a mosaic more radiant than any whole one. Those who drank from it found not just water, but courage, for they tasted beauty reborn from ruin. Chosen ones often live this story in their own skin. Their contracts sometimes require them to be broken so that they may learn the art of sacred repair, not for themselves alone, but as a living testimony that what shatters can shine again. The golden seams of their wounds become a map for others still convinced that their own fractures are final. Then there is the myth of the silent watcher. In a bustling kingdom, there stood a solitary figure on the hill who did not speak for many years. People mocked the watcher, calling them useless, strange, or mad. What they did not know was that the watcher could hear the heartbeat of the earth itself. Their silence was not emptiness, but listening, and when the kingdom faced its greatest crisis, it was the watcher who spoke a single sentence that guided them to safety. Chosen contracts often demand long seasons of waiting and listening, misunderstood by those around them. Their power is not in constant action but in attunement to rhythms deeper than society's noise. When their moment arrives, their words or actions carry the weight of entire lifetimes of listening. A subtler story unfolds in The River and the Stone. A river once asked a stone, "Do you not long to move, to change, to explore new lands?" The stone replied, "My task is not to wander but to remain, so that you may learn your own shape against me." Chosen ones are sometimes not the river, but the stone, the anchor, the still point, the friction against which others are transformed. They may not appear heroic. Their lives may seem uneventful from the outside. Yet their presence shapes countless journeys. Their contracts are about being an axis rather than a traveler, a reminder that influence is not always measured in motion, but in steadfastness. Equally profound is the allegory of the hidden garden. A child once discovered a locked gate behind their home, overgrown with vines. Night after night, they dreamed of what lay beyond. One day, after years of searching, they found the key, not in the earth nor in the sky, but in their own chest. When they opened the gate, they found a garden of extraordinary flowers, glowing in colors the world had never seen. The child wept with both wonder and grief, realizing that their task was not simply to enjoy the garden, but to bring its seeds into the wider world. This story speaks of chosen ones discovering inner dimensions of beauty, wisdom, and power that no one else around them can see. Their soul contracts charge them with the impossible task of translating that hidden garden into language, art, or presence others can recognize. They are not given the garden for themselves, but entrusted with its seeds for the collective. And perhaps most haunting is the tale of the weaver's loom. In a hall of eternity, countless threads stretched across an infinite loom. Each soul was a thread, weaving in and out of the larger tapestry. Most threads simply followed the pattern, intertwining with others. But every so often, a weaver would take one thread aside, dye it with colors unseen before, and place it back in the loom at a sharp angle. That thread cut across the pattern, disrupting and yet also creating new designs. The other threads murmured, "This one does not belong." Yet, when the weaver stepped back, it was clear that without those angled threads, the tapestry lacked depth and brilliance. Chosen ones are such threads, disruptors, anomalies, divergences in the pattern. Their contracts often place them at odds with convention, for their purpose is to bend the design towards dimensions it would never reach otherwise. These narratives reveal the symbolic heart of chosen contracts. They are not linear journeys, but living myths. They are parables enacted in flesh and bone, dramas whose meaning often remains hidden until seen through the lens of archetype. What the chosen one suffers, loves, or loses is rarely just personal. It reverberates in the collective unconscious like ripples across a cosmic pond. They live as allegories, often without realizing it, until a moment comes when they see their story reflected in the myths of countless ages. In that recognition, isolation dissolves. They are not alone. They are part of a lineage of souls who have always carried fire through the night. It is one thing to speak of chosen ones and their soul contracts in the lofty language of myth, but it is another to embody those truths when the alarm clock rings at 6 a.m., when bills arrive in the mailbox, when friends fail to understand, or when the weight of existence feels unbearable. The question, then, is not merely what does it mean to be chosen, but how can this knowledge be lived? Or if a soul contract remains an abstract idea, it risks becoming another comforting story, yet its true purpose is to transform the way life itself is experienced. The first layer of integration begins with perception. When one recognizes that life is not random, the lens through which events are viewed begins to shift. What once appeared as senseless suffering may now be reinterpreted as a teaching moment written into the contract. This does not mean excusing harm or romanticizing pain, but it does allow the chosen soul to ask deeper questions. What is this event chiseling in me? What aspect of my contract is being activated here? Such reframing does not erase difficulty, but it infuses hardship with meaning, and meaning has the power to transmute despair into resilience. Take, for example, the sense of isolation so common in chosen ones. Practically, it may manifest as loneliness, a perpetual feeling of being misunderstood by family, colleagues, or peers. Without the awareness of a soul contract, this isolation festers into alienation or bitterness. But when integrated, the chosen one begins to see solitude as a necessary furnace, shaping their ability to hear the whisper of inner guidance without distraction. They may still ache for companionship, but they will no longer mistake solitude for failure. Instead, they come to hold it as sacred training, a silent classroom for their spirit. Integration also requires learning to navigate the material world without betraying the spiritual one. Many chosen ones struggle with the friction between their inner calling and external demands, the need to earn a living, maintain relationships, and function in a society that often prizes conformity over authenticity. This friction is part of the contract itself. It forces the chosen one to learn balance, to translate inner vision into outer form without being swallowed by either. Some discover this balance through creative work, turning mystical insight into art, music, writing, or service. Others embody it in more subtle ways, bringing presence, compassion, or integrity into ordinary spaces such as offices, classrooms, or households. The contract does not demand that chosen ones abandon the world, but that they transfigure it from within. Another crucial aspect of practical integration is the management of energy. Chosen contracts often pull individuals into situations where they absorb or mirror the emotions of others. This heightened sensitivity, if unguarded, can leave them exhausted, resentful, or ill. Practically speaking, chosen ones must cultivate disciplines that help them replenish. Meditation, nature, creative expression, boundaries, and above all, honest self-reflection. Without such practices, their light flickers. With them, it shines steadily. This is no small matter, for a soul contract unfulfilled due to burnout is not just a personal tragedy, it is a loss to the collective. The theme of timing also translates into daily living. Chosen ones are often tempted to rush their mission, feeling the urgency of their contract pressing on them. Yet, premature action can scatter energy and diminish impact. Integration here means trusting the slow unfolding of divine timing. It means recognizing that seeds planted in obscurity may take years to bear fruit, and that waiting is not wasted time but hidden preparation. The discipline of patience is perhaps one of the most difficult aspects of chosen contracts, yet it is also among the most rewarding, for when the appointed time arrives, the chosen one discovers that every moment of delay has ripened their capacity to serve. Equally significant is the way chosen ones relate to community. Their contracts rarely allow them to remain entirely alone, for their service is always linked to others. Yet community for the chosen one is rarely straightforward. They may attract both support and opposition, sometimes from the same people. Here, integration means discerning which voices truly echo the soul's resonance and which merely reflect fear or projection. It is not about seeking approval, but about finding allies who can hold the mirror of truth without distortion. Real-world implications here include seeking spaces, whether spiritual groups, artistic collectives, or simply friendships, that nourish rather than drain. Perhaps the most tangible application of these contracts is in the realm of vocation and purpose. While not all chosen ones are destined to become public figures or leaders, each carries a unique way of embodying their agreement. Some may be healers in clinics or kitchens, others teachers in classrooms or conversations. Still others, innovators in technology, business, or activism. The form does not matter as much as the essence. Chosen ones bring transformation, wherever they are placed. Practical integration here means listening for the resonance between one's inner gifts and outer opportunities, and then daring to step into that alignment, even when it defies convention. And yet, for all this, chosen contracts must also be integrated with humility. The chosen one must remember that their role is not to dominate or to boast, but to serve. In practice, this means approaching each encounter with openness, recognizing that even those who seem asleep or resistant may be offering crucial lessons. It means relinquishing the need to control outcomes and trusting that the soul's contract is fulfilled not by perfection but by sincerity. In daily life, this humility may look like listening more than speaking, or like acting with integrity even when no one is watching. Ultimately, practical integration transforms the lofty narratives of chosen contracts into lived truth. It allows one to walk through a crowded marketplace with the same reverence as through a temple, to meet frustration with curiosity, to greet suffering with courage, and to recognize that every interaction is a brushstroke in the larger tapestry. It dissolves the divide between the cosmic and the ordinary, revealing that the soul's contract is not fulfilled in grand gestures alone, but in the way one lives each day, honest, awake, and aligned with the vow whispered before birth. Every story that dares to reach toward the eternal must, at some point, return to the soil of the present moment. And so we arrive here, at the edge of our exploration of the chosen ones and their unique soul contracts. We have wandered through introductions filled with cosmic wonder, examined the guiding themes that shape these lives, breathed in the fragrance of symbolic parables, and wrestled with the real-world work of integration. Yet, what remains now is not simply to admire the tapestry we have woven, but to step into it. For the truth is that knowledge about soul contracts is never meant to remain suspended in the air like mist. It is meant to be breathed, embodied, lived. The chosen ones are not distant myths or exalted figures locked in history's golden frames. They are here, now, in the streets we walk, in the quiet corners of classrooms, in hospitals, in fields, in boardrooms, in homes. Perhaps they are your neighbor. Perhaps they are the stranger whose words unexpectedly altered the course of your life. Or perhaps, most hauntingly, they are you. If as you have listened and reflected, a quiet resonance has stirred, a feeling that your wounds carry more meaning than punishment, that your solitude whispers of hidden preparation, that your longing is not madness but compass, then it may be that you too carry such a contract. If so, then hear this clearly. You are not here by accident. Your story, with all its fractures and triumphs, is part of a larger unfolding. You need not wait for permission to live in alignment with that contract, nor fear that your scars disqualify you. On the contrary, it is often the very scars that prove you are ready. For chosen contracts are not written in ink that can smudge. They are etched into the marrow of your being, awaiting only your recognition. And when you begin to live from that recognition, the ordinary world transforms into a stage where every gesture carries sacred weight. Transformation does not arrive as thunder and lightning alone. More often, it comes in whispers, in the decision to speak truth when silence would be easier, in the act of offering kindness where bitterness might feel justified, in the choice to honor your own soul's resonance rather than betray it for convenience. Each of these acts, small as they seem, is the contract unfolding itself through you. You need not carry the burden of saving the world. Your task is simpler yet more profound. To live your agreement with sincerity, to embody the fragment of light entrusted to you, and in so doing, to ignite sparks in those around you. There will be days when you doubt, days when the world's noise drowns out your inner compass, when fatigue tempts you to forget that you are more than flesh navigating routines. In those moments, return to the symbols, the lantern bearer, the broken vessel, the watcher, the weaver's loom. Let them remind you that your struggles are part of a story far older than your individual life. You are a thread angled across the fabric of existence, and though others may not see the pattern yet, the weaver does. Trust that perspective. Trust that nothing is wasted. And so the transformational call is this: awaken not with passivity but with participation. Do not only ponder your contract, practice it. Stand where you are and ask, what vow is calling me here in this very moment? Then answer with action, however small. The chosen path is not about grandiosity but about fidelity. It is about showing up again and again, carrying your light even when no applause greets you, tending to your hidden garden even when no one knows it blooms, speaking truth even when silence would shield you. If you have stayed through this journey, something within you already knows the way forward. Perhaps you feel a stirring of courage, or a softening of fear, or simply the faint recognition that your life is not random after all. Hold on to that recognition. It is the beginning of transformation. Let it reshape the way you see your past, your present, and your unfolding future. For to live in alignment with your contract is not only to fulfill your destiny, it is to become a living invitation for others to remember theirs. So breathe deeply. Step into the mystery with both humility and boldness, and know that though the road may be demanding, it is also radiant, for it was chosen not for you but by you, long before you ever opened your eyes to this world. This, then, is your call. Rise, remember, embody, transform.